Most people fear silence. They run from solitude as if it were a prison. But those who truly understand power know isolation is not loneliness, it is control. When you learn to be at peace in your own company, you stop needing the approval, attention, or energy of others. In that quiet space, your mind sharpens, your emotions settle, and you begin to see the world for what it truly is, a game of distraction. The one who masters solitude masters himself, and the one who masters himself controls everything. Isolation breeds power, a truth that few understand and even fewer can endure. The majority of people cling to noise, to conversation, to movement, because silence forces them to face themselves. But the one who learns to be comfortable in solitude gains something rare: control over his own mind. When the world is filled with endless chatter, distraction, and opinions, stepping back from it is not weakness. It is the first act of mastery. A man who isolates himself is not necessarily running away from society. Often, he is retreating to fortify his mind, to examine his ambitions, to study human nature from a distance. He understands that power begins not in the crowd, but in the quiet corners where strategy is born. When you are surrounded by people, your thoughts are influenced by their emotions, desires, and weaknesses. You begin to absorb the fear of the fearful, the laziness of the comfortable, and the confusion of the aimless. Solitude cuts those invisible chains. It allows you to hear your own reasoning without interruption. The Machiavellian mind values this kind of separation because it is within isolation that clarity grows. You see people as they are, not as they pretend to be. You see patterns of manipulation, ambition, and vanity, and once you understand them, you can use them. The crowd believes that isolation drains energy, but the opposite is true. Being constantly surrounded by others drains your focus, scattering your strength among trivial conversations and meaningless interactions. In solitude, your energy returns to you. Your thoughts become concentrated, your will hardens, and your attention sharpens like a blade. You begin to think not about what others expect of you, but about what you truly want to create, achieve, and conquer. This mental independence is the foundation of all power. Machiavelli understood that great strategists, rulers, and thinkers often spent long periods in isolation. It was never an escape from duty, but a preparation for it. Solitude becomes the forge where ideas are tested and refined. The noise of the world drowns insight. Silence reveals it. While others seek comfort in company, the wise use solitude to strengthen their mind like a soldier sharpening his sword before battle. When he returns to the world, he is not the same. His words carry more weight, his presence demands more attention, and his movements are more deliberate. There is also an emotional advantage to isolation. When you detach from constant social interaction, you stop depending on others for validation. Most people are slaves to the opinions of others, constantly adjusting their behavior to please or impress. The one who lives comfortably alone develops inner stability. His emotions no longer rise and fall with external approval. He becomes immune to the manipulations that control ordinary minds. People may call him distant or cold, but this distance protects his freedom. Isolation also teaches patience, one of the rarest traits in human behavior. The solitary man does not need immediate results. He is willing to wait, to observe, to plan. He watches the movements of others without revealing his own. This gives him the advantage of timing, the ability to act precisely when others are unprepared. In politics, business, or life, timing is the hidden art of power, and solitude is its teacher. But isolation is not for the weak. It confronts you with your fears, your insecurities, and your emptiness. Only those with strong minds can endure the silence long enough to transform it into strength. For others, it becomes unbearable, and they rush back into the noise-seeking distraction. Yet those who stay, who master their solitude, emerge with unshakable confidence. They no longer need the world to define them. They define themselves. In this independence lies the true essence of power. When a person chooses to remain apart from the crowd, he begins to see what others cannot. The world is loud, and in that noise, truth hides. Most people move through life reacting to the chaos around them, blind to the forces that shape their decisions. But the one who steps back, who prefers observation over participation, gains a kind of vision that others never develop. From a distance, patterns become clear. The ambitions, fears, and weaknesses that drive human behavior reveal themselves. Machiavelli understood that the observer always has the advantage because power does not come from being seen, but from seeing everything. In the crowd, emotion spreads like fire. One person's fear infects another. One person's excitement blinds the rest. Judgment becomes clouded and reason disappears. But the solitary observer is immune to this contagion. He watches the panic, the arrogance, the greed of others, and learns how to use it. Every outburst, every impulsive move, every careless word becomes a lesson in control. By observing human nature without being absorbed in it, he learns to predict it. And when you can predict behavior, you can control outcomes. That is the essence of strategy. The power of observation grows stronger in silence. Those who talk too much reveal themselves. Those who listen gain knowledge. In stillness, you begin to notice the subtle cues that most overlook. The hesitation in a voice, the insecurity behind confidence, the motive hidden behind kindness. These small details expose the truth behind people's masks. The observer collects these truths quietly, never announcing what he knows, but storing them as weapons for the moments that matter. Knowledge, when hidden, multiplies in value. People who constantly chase attention rarely notice anything beyond themselves. Their need to be seen blinds them to what is actually happening around them. The observer, however, is invisible. He is not trying to impress, compete, or speak louder. This invisibility makes him dangerous. Others underestimate him because he does not demand notice. Yet, while they perform for attention, he studies them. Their habits, their desires, their flaws. When the time comes to act, he knows exactly where to strike. The world belongs not to the loud, but to the perceptive. There is also freedom in being an observer. When you stop engaging in every argument, trend, or distraction, you detach from the madness of the collective mind. You are no longer driven by emotional impulses or public opinion. This distance allows for calm, calculated thinking. It is from this position of mental stability that wise decisions are made. Machiavelli would argue that true influence does not come from participation, but from manipulation. And manipulation requires understanding. You cannot move the pieces of the game if you are one of them. You must stand above the board and see it whole. Observation is not passivity. It is preparation. The one who watches is not idle. He is waiting. Every second of stillness is an investment in foresight. He gathers knowledge while others waste energy. He studies not only people but systems, how power flows, how authority is maintained, how emotion controls reason. This kind of awareness creates a mind that moves strategically rather than instinctively. While others act out of emotion, the observer acts out of understanding, and that difference decides who wins. The crowd often mocks those who stay apart, calling them withdrawn or detached, but they fail to realize that detachment is power. The observer does not need constant stimulation or validation. His satisfaction comes from clarity, from knowing how the world truly operates beneath its surface. He becomes like a shadow, silent, unseen, yet always present. And when he chooses to step forward, his actions carry weight because they are based on knowledge, not impulse. Observation turns the quiet mind into a weapon. It transforms solitude into strength and silence into supremacy. Emotional independence is the highest form of freedom because it frees you from the invisible chains that control most people. The majority are ruled not by logic or principle, but by emotion, by the need to be liked, loved, accepted, or understood. They trade their peace for approval, their dignity for validation, and their time for attention. Machiavelli understood that whoever controls emotions controls people. When you become emotionally independent, no one can command your actions through affection, guilt, or fear. You begin to operate from reason, not reaction. This is the difference between those who lead and those who are led. Dependence makes people predictable. A person who constantly needs reassurance or praise will always bend to those who provide it. They become easy to manipulate because their happiness lies outside themselves. They can be moved by silence, by flattery, or by rejection. But the emotionally independent man stands apart. He does not need constant approval, nor is he destroyed by disapproval. His stability comes from within. This inner balance gives him immense power because nothing external can easily disturb him. People sense this calm, and it unsettles them. They cannot use the usual tools of control, guilt, attention, or seduction, because he does not respond like the rest. In relationships, emotional independence creates respect. When you are not desperate for someone's affection, your presence gains value. Those who cling too tightly are often pushed away, while those who can walk away at any moment command curiosity and admiration. Machiavelli would say that attachment must be managed like power, given carefully, never completely. To be too emotionally available is to give others the ability to wound you. To keep a part of yourself untouched is to retain control. People trust strength, not neediness. They follow those who seem fulfilled without them. The world constantly encourages emotional dependence. It teaches you to seek happiness in attention, to define yourself by others' opinions, to crave connection even at the cost of self-respect. But this is how control is maintained, through emotional hooks. The wise detach from this illusion. They understand that solitude sharpens emotional independence because it removes the constant need for validation. When you learn to enjoy your own company, you no longer chase company out of loneliness. Your emotions become tools to use, not traps to fall into. You can feel deeply, but you remain in control of those feelings. Emotional independence also strengthens decision-making. When you are ruled by emotion, your judgment becomes clouded. Anger, love, or fear can make you act against your own interest. But when your emotions no longer dictate your choices, you become deliberate, strategic, and difficult to manipulate. You can negotiate without desperation, walk away without regret, and endure rejection without collapse. People mistake this composure for coldness, but it is discipline. To stay calm while others panic, to remain clear when others are blinded by emotion. This is true strength. Those who are emotionally independent can love, but their love is pure because it is a choice, not a need. They give affection freely, but never depend on it for self-worth. This detachment does not kill emotion, it refines it. It makes relationships more stable and life more peaceful. Machiavelli would argue that emotional independence is not about isolation but control. Control over yourself before others can control you. Once you master this, manipulation loses its power. The insults, praise, or rejection of others no longer move you from your path. You act from principle, not pressure. In the end, emotional independence turns you into your own source of power. You no longer live at the mercy of others' moods or approval. You can observe, decide, and act without being swayed by emotional storms. This calmness becomes your armor in a chaotic world. It allows you to think while others feel, to move while others hesitate. Those who achieve this state rise above manipulation and fear because their stability cannot be stolen. They have found what most never will, total freedom within themselves. Mystery is one of the most underestimated sources of power. People are naturally drawn to what they do not fully understand. When you make yourself too available, too predictable, or too transparent, others lose curiosity about you. But when you hold something back, when your words and actions leave gaps for others to fill with imagination, you become intriguing. Machiavelli understood that mystery is not about deception for its own sake. It is about control. The less others know about your intentions, the more control you have over their reactions. When people cannot easily read you, they begin to speculate, and speculation creates fascination, fear, and respect. Those who talk too much reveal their thoughts, and when their minds are open to everyone, they become ordinary. Mystery elevates you above the crowd. It allows you to move strategically, because people can't predict what you will do next. Predictability is the death of influence. Once others can anticipate you, they can counter you. By maintaining an air of uncertainty, you force others to adjust to you instead. The mysterious person dictates the pace of interaction without ever appearing to do so. They control the tension, the timing, and the curiosity of others, like a puppeteer pulling invisible strings. Mystery also creates emotional distance, and emotional distance creates power. When people cannot fully access you, they value every piece of attention you give. A word, a glance, or a gesture becomes meaningful because it is rare. This scarcity makes your presence magnetic. Those who are always available lose their impact. Those who appear rarely command attention. Machiavelli would advise to be seen enough to remind people of your existence, but never enough to make your presence ordinary. Your silence should make people wonder, and your return should make them alert. To be mysterious, you must learn restraint. You must resist the human desire to explain yourself or prove your worth. The world is full of people desperate to be understood, but understanding breeds comfort, and comfort breeds disregard. The mysterious individual speaks less, reveals selectively, and acts with purpose. Every action must seem deliberate but never fully explained. This ambiguity makes others project their fantasies and fears onto you. They see what they want to see, and that illusion works in your favor. The less they know, the more they imagine, and imagination magnifies your presence far beyond reality. Mystery also shields you from judgment. When you reveal too much, people begin to define you, to limit you with their opinions. But if you remain partly hidden, you stay undefined, and the undefined cannot be controlled. Others may try to guess your motives, but they can never act with certainty. This uncertainty keeps them cautious, respectful, and at times even afraid. Power is often maintained not through aggression, but through unpredictability. People fear what they cannot predict, and they respect what they fear. The mysterious person must also be disciplined in emotion. To maintain an aura of enigma, you must not react too quickly or too intensely. Overreaction exposes your weakness and reveals your attachments. A calm, unreadable demeanor confuses others. It makes them question what you truly think, and that uncertainty gives you psychological leverage. Even silence can become a weapon. When others expect answers and you offer none, they begin to reveal more than they intended, trying to fill the void your restraint creates. Mystery is not isolation. It is presence without exposure. It is knowing when to appear and when to disappear. It is the balance between visibility and secrecy. Those who master it can control attention without begging for it. They become the center of curiosity without seeking recognition. People watch them, talk about them, and try to understand them, but never fully can. That distance becomes a fortress of influence. Machiavelli would say that mystery is a mask worn not to hide weakness, but to project strength. When people cannot see your full face, they imagine it greater than it is. And in a world driven by perception, imagination is often more powerful than truth. Stillness is often mistaken for passivity, but in reality, it is one of the highest forms of discipline. To remain calm when others are restless, to stay patient when others rush, and to think deeply when others react. This is the mark of a strong and dangerous mind. The world glorifies constant activity. People equate motion with progress, noise with importance, and busyness with success. But Machiavelli understood that true power grows in the quiet spaces where few have the patience to linger. The ability to remain still while everyone else moves without purpose is what separates the strategist from the follower. In stillness, the mind clears. Distraction fades, and patterns become visible. You begin to notice the rhythm of events, the pace of decisions, and the consequences that others overlook. When you stop reacting impulsively, you start responding intelligently. Most people are slaves to urgency. They chase, they hurry, they decide in haste, and then they regret. The disciplined individual, however, waits. He watches how situations unfold and acts only when the timing favors him. This patience is not weakness. It is calculation. It allows him to conserve energy, to strike with precision, and to achieve maximum effect with minimal effort. Stillness requires mastery over the self. The hardest battle is not with others, but with your own impulses. The need to speak when silence would serve you better. The urge to act when waiting would yield more power. Discipline in thought and emotion turns stillness into strength. When others are consumed by reaction, you remain focused. When others panic, you remain composed. This composure unsettles people. They expect chaos to spread, but your calm presence disrupts that expectation. It gives you authority, because in every crisis, the one who remains calm becomes the one others look to for guidance. Stillness also builds endurance. A restless mind burns itself out quickly. It chases stimulation until it collapses from exhaustion. But the disciplined mind, comfortable in stillness, gathers energy instead of wasting it. It observes, studies, and sharpens its perception. Like a predator watching its prey, it does not need to move constantly to be effective. It knows that timing is everything, and one precise move can accomplish what endless motion cannot. This quiet strength intimidates others because they cannot measure or predict it. They mistake your stillness for inaction, not realizing that beneath the surface, you are preparing for the perfect moment to act. There is also a moral strength in stillness. It teaches control over emotion. Anger, fear, and excitement all lose their power when met with calm observation. People who cannot remain still become puppets of their feelings. They lash out, overcommit, or retreat too soon. The disciplined individual knows that emotions are temporary and that clarity emerges only when they pass. Machiavelli would say that the ruler who reacts emotionally loses authority, while the one who waits with patience and self-control multiplies his influence. The same principle applies to every area of life. The one who remains centered in chaos becomes unshakable. Stillness does not mean inaction, it means intentionality. Every movement, every word, every decision is chosen carefully, not made in haste. It is a form of mental economy, doing less but achieving more. When you develop this discipline, you begin to move with purpose. You stop chasing opportunities and start creating them. Others rush to be seen. You wait to be needed. Others burn out quickly. You last until the end. This quiet endurance makes you appear larger, more grounded, and more powerful than those who exhaust themselves trying to prove their worth. Machiavelli would remind you that the most dangerous person in any room is not the loudest or the most active, but the one who watches in silence, whose stillness hides intention. Such a person controls their energy like a weapon, using it only when the impact will be greatest. The hidden discipline of stillness is not glamorous, but it is transformative. It builds strength, focus, and self-command, qualities that make a person unshakable in a world addicted to motion. The one who masters stillness masters power itself, because he no longer acts out of impulse, but out of pure will. The world teaches people to chase attention, wealth, approval, success, as if constant pursuit were the only path to achievement. But the truth, as Machiavelli would recognize, is that real power does not chase, it attracts. The one who knows his value, who is patient enough to master himself, does not run after opportunity. He creates an aura that makes opportunity come to him. The world naturally gravitates toward those who appear unmoved by it. There is a quiet authority in detachment, a magnetism that draws others in without effort. The man who stays centered and self-reliant becomes a rare figure in a world desperate for recognition, and rarity always commands attention. Chasing is a sign of dependence. When you chase something, you reveal that it has power over you. You expose your need and show that your happiness depends on something external. People sense this and treat you accordingly. They withhold what you seek because they know you will keep pursuing it. But when you withdraw that energy, when you stop running after what you want, the balance of power shifts. Those who once ignored you begin to wonder why. Curiosity replaces indifference, and curiosity often turns into respect. The refusal to chase is not arrogance, it is strategy. It communicates that your value exists with or without their recognition. Machiavelli would say that influence is not gained by loudness, but by composure. Those who are constantly moving appear restless, uncertain, and easy to manipulate. Those who move rarely and deliberately project confidence. When you act with patience and control, the world begins to wait for your next move. This patience creates suspense, and suspense creates power. People become drawn to you because your stillness contrasts with their restlessness. In a culture of desperation, calmness becomes dominance. The wise do not compete for attention. They create silence around themselves until the noise of others fades. Remaining still while others chase also gives you perspective. When you are not caught up in constant pursuit, you can see more clearly what is truly valuable. Many chase illusions, trends, applause, temporary rewards, and end up serving others' interests instead of their own. The one who stands apart sees through these games. He lets others exhaust themselves while he watches patterns unfold. When the right moment comes, he steps forward and takes what he needs with minimal effort. The hunter who waits is more effective than the one who runs blindly. Patience in this sense is not passivity but precision. There is also a psychological advantage in letting the world come to you. Those who chase often lose their identity trying to please or adapt. They change direction with every opportunity, and in doing so, they lose consistency. But the person who remains grounded develops a strong sense of self. This stability becomes magnetic because others crave it. People naturally follow those who seem certain of themselves. They trust those who do not seem to need anything. Neediness repels, self-sufficiency attracts. The more content you are within yourself, the more people are drawn to your presence, hoping to share in that stability. Machiavelli would argue that even rulers must learn this lesson. Power is maintained not by frantic action, but by composed restraint. The more a ruler appears desperate for approval or control, the weaker he becomes in the eyes of his subjects. But the ruler who stands firm, who does not beg to be obeyed or loved, creates an aura of inevitability. People follow him not because he demands it, but because his confidence leaves no other choice. The same principle applies to individuals in everyday life. When you act as if you already possess what others seek, they begin to treat you as if you do. Letting the world come to you requires trust in your own strength. It demands that you believe your worth is enough to draw what is meant for you. This mindset transforms your energy. You no longer chase approval, you embody authority. You no longer run after opportunity, you prepare for it. And when it arrives, you meet it from a place of calm readiness, not desperation. The world eventually bends toward those who are patient enough to stand still while others tire themselves out running in circles. The one who does not chase becomes the one who is chased, because power, like respect, always flows toward self-control. While the world chases noise, the wise retreat into silence. They understand that solitude is not emptiness but strength, a space where the mind sharpens and the spirit becomes untouchable. The one who learns to live alone does not fear being forgotten. He becomes unforgettable. He does not depend on the world's approval because he has conquered the need for it. In his silence, he studies. In his stillness, he prepares. And when he finally steps forward, the world listens. Machiavelli would say that power begins the moment you stop chasing and start observing. When you no longer seek validation, but command it through presence. The person who loves staying at home may seem distant to others, but in truth, he is the only one truly connected. Connected to his mind, his vision, and his strength. Solitude is not isolation. It is transformation. And in that transformation lies the birth of power.